Let's start with you, Nick. I know you've been through a divorce.
Two.
Two divorces.
Two divorces.
God, as a lawyer, I would have thought you would have saved yourself the expense of that.
Well, I didn't say I didn't, but I didn't. Look, I think, but my answer is no, you shouldn't stay together for the kids.
Right.
What's interesting is more and more people now are not getting married, they're living together. The primary important thing is to ensure that the children are happy. And it's a case of how you achieve that. And I don't think just staying together for the sake of children, you're not demonstrating a loving relationship. So when the relationship's broken down, you split and you don't weaponize the children, you do it civilly, with love, with kindness. So you're preserving, you make sure that no one's blaming anyone. It's just a situation it is. What I find fascinating is, I think that the breakdown in the family unit, and that doesn't matter whether you're married or not, is responsible for a whole host of our young criminality, our young mental health issues. In the 70s, the family unit stayed together. And I know people weren't maybe as happy as they think they should have been or could have been, but the unit did stay together.
But I feel as if you've gone from you shouldn't stay together to you should stay together in about two sentences, Nick.
Well, the point is, I think our aspirations now are not realistic.
I mean, how happy we think we're entitled to be.
Yeah, I think there's this utopian existence of, this orgasmic existence of how our relationship should be, which doesn't actually reflect reality. And in the 70s and 60s, people stayed together. Very few people got divorced. Yeah. And you didn't have children generally committing offences. They were tended to have respect. They were well behaved, etc., etc. And now with social media, different attitudes, everyone thinks, oh, it's not very good, I'm breaking up. And I'm afraid if the parents can't demonstrate a good, loving relationship, you're better apart.
I don't know. Now, you're a different generation. What do you think?
I mean, I was almost agreeing with you. The old, when you're on a plane, sort your mask out before you sort someone else's. How can you expect to have happy kids if you are, not happy yourself? And I think, showing your children how to value yourself and what a respectful, copacetic relationship is a really important part of parenting. And I really don't agree with the kind of breakdown of the model family. I think you can be a really happy kid in a family that looks very untraditional. And I think phrases like broken homes is something we should probably leave in the 60s and the 70s.
And yet, we can say whatever we would like things to be like, but for many children, when a marriage breaks up, first of all, you have the feeling of being left by one or other parent, even if they're not specifically leaving you. And even if they have that conversation, which is, I'm not leaving you, I'm leaving your mum, or I'm not leaving you, it's your dad, that thing. So you're left there in a home which effectively is broken because it isn't what it was like before. And then you have that that wonderful book by Jacqueline Wilson called The Suitcase Kid, which describes the plight of a child in a shared custody situation where, on Thursdays you go and stay with dad and you take your gym kit in this bag and then you go and stay in a house which isn't the house that you really live in with children from another relationship or children that the other person that your dad or mum is now with had before you were even born, and you have to share a bedroom with them or something. And then the next day you have to remember to take that into school because and this is considered to be an optimal way of living. And nobody really talks very much about the effect that kind of thing has on children as they shuttle between two different homes. The presumption that it's better that way, I'm not sure it necessarily is better that way. And one of the things I remember learning from a psychologist years ago is, children are lovely and wonderful and we adore them, but they can be very, very selfish. And really what they want is not to have to think about whether their parents are happy or unhappy. They just want their parents there in the same home, in the house, so that their lives can continue as normal. And who can possibly blame them?
Well, that might be on their wish list. But first of all, I'd say children are very resilient. And secondly, I'd say that as long as there isn't any animosity and hostility...
But there almost always is animosity,
no, you can't. Well, it's the parents' responsibility to conduct themselves in a way that actually preserves the sanctity of the children. And that's the prior thing that all the courts really consider is what is in the best interest of the children. And if parents, as I say, didn't weaponise the children, and you didn't have one parent saying, you want this amount of money, I'm not going to let you see Tommy or Jane on this day and this day. This is what happens. And parents need to assume responsibility and protect the children.
Yeah, but these are perfect parents in a perfect world, not parents who are completely shocked because their other half has suddenly absconded with someone else, or the marriage that they believed in and thought was going to last forever has just imploded, and they're not sure where they're going to live, and they're not sure what they're going to do for money, and there are little children caught at the heart of it. I mean, ideally everyone would behave impeccably, but ideally everyone would do that all the time in every situation. But this is a situation
it's life.
Where people are so desperately fraught.
It's life.
but it's hard on the children.
But yes, but it'd be much harder if they're living with mummy and daddy who can't stand each other.
Well, why don't mummy and daddy make this superb effort, but in the house rather than outside when they've split?
They may well have done, and it hasn't worked for one reason or another. So when it doesn't work, we know statistically that the children are actually much better with parents who are separated.
What are those statistics? That's not what this whole conversation is impelled by. This organisation saying lots of these children being brought up away from one parent. It's not a good thing. Let's go straight to Louise, who's in Buckinghamshire. And I think, Louise, you had a jolly good go at trying to do that. Tell us what happened. Thanks so much for ringing.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm actually on there. I can't believe I'm talking to you. It's amazing.
Oh, it's so nice to talk to you. And you've been through a lot, it sounds like to me.
Well, I have and I haven't.
Okay.
I met my husband when I was 14.
Right.
So I was very, very young. And we stayed together for a long, long, long time. But when we had 3 children together, and it was just lovely. And we had some very good friends and so on. But unfortunately, he had an affair with one of my best friends.
Oh, how painful.
And it was so bad. But the thing is, when I looked at it, I thought, this is the worst thing that you could ever imagine. But I thought, what I've got to do is stay with him because of my 3 children.
Yes.
Actually, they were the most important thing in the whole business of it. And I did that. I just thought I'm going to have to stay with him. And we sorted it all out because of the 3 children. And we're still together now. And we've just celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
We're still together. And so, but it was so painful, so awful. But I do think sometimes you have to just grip yourself and think, because of the children, it's not their fault. No. It's your fault, actually, that things have gone on.
And tell me something, Louise, did the children, did they know that it happened or did they not know? Were you able to keep it sort of completely smoothed over so they didn't realise, or did they realise what happened?
No, they never knew.
They never knew? So Louise did this incredible job, Nick.
It's actually, in my mind, it's our problem, not theirs.
Do they know now, Louise, or not?
You have to just flip, that it's our problem, not theirs.
And Nick just said, Louise, do they know now or have they never found out?
They've never found out.
Wow, that's incredible, isn't it?
Amazing.
So you're absolutely sure you did the right thing.
Really, because they've gone on to be lovely children with their own marriages and everything else. And we've just upheld everything that we've done. But it was awful. It destroyed me, really. But I thought, do you know what? They don't need to have this on their backs. They don't need it.
Okay, I'm asking so many questions, but have you found happiness again within the marriage, or have you been unhappy and hurt ever since and you're still unhappy and hurt?
No, we're more than happy now. We've had to move on. You have to, don't you?
You do. You're the best caller on this subject I could ever have had, Louise. You really are the best caller. Thank you very, very much. I mean, that's, what an amazing story. That's kind of heroic sacrifice for the sake of your children, which ultimately ended up making them happy, not unhappy.
What's important is she's clearly demonstrated a loving relationship throughout with her husband.
Yes.
And so the children have just benefited
massively from that. By that great personal
cost,
cost, obviously. That's amazing.
Personal sacrifice by bearing her own personal sorrow for a period of time.
Fantastic. Let's talk to Lisa in Wiltshire. Hi, Lisa. So what happened to your family?
Yeah, good morning.
Hello.
My parents divorced when I was about 8. They split up.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best thing they ever did. If they'd have stayed together, I think my thoughts on relationships or mental health would have gone down. I mean, it took a while for them to get talking after, but they always co-parented really well, and I always felt loved on both sides. My parents are now best friends.
Oh, that's great.
my dad remarried, and I've got siblings from that marriage that I love to pieces. If there's birthdays, my mum gets involved. It's still a close family. My mum still visits my gran on my dad's side and everything.
That's great.
And
Wow.
I think for them doing that taught me a lot about relationships, that even though, okay, they didn't stay together, and I think I would have come off worse if they had stayed together. It shows that it does work. Sometimes you just can't stay for the kids. Kids aren't stupid. I wasn't stupid. I knew there was something going on. And being in an environment where you know the love is not there anymore would have been more detrimental to me than them splitting up, even though it was hard for me at first. But I mean, the schools, they didn't even realise that parents' evenings, my parents would go together. They didn't even know my parents had split up until I was 13, and it was mentioned.
Well, your parents
one of the
obviously
parents'
did the
evenings.
most incredible job. The problem is it's so hard to achieve that kind of harmony after
Well, it was
a divorce.
the right thing.
Very unusual,
If
but really amazing. And thank you so much, Lisa. Really good to hear from you. I mean, this is obviously a difficult one, isn't it?
But when love's left the room, it's time for the parents to split up.
You think so?
Yeah.
And you think the same?
I think so, but I thought what great examples both of those callers' parents have set, with the self-sacrifice and also making it work in the co-parenting.
But there was still love there. There was still love.
Yeah.
And that's the
Absolutely.
important thing,
Thank you
isn't it?
so much, you two. It's
Thank
been
you.
really great having you here.